Hey guys and gals, Barnell here with another tips and tricks video. So today we're going to be talking about getting to 100% completion on the museum, the gardens, and the zoo. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about today is the Botanical Garden. So the Botanical Garden is probably the quickest and easiest thing to complete. So you can see that with each completion here of the gardens, we gain productivity and fertility. So that's kind of neat. You could actually move these to different islands and provide fertilities, and you gain productivity on those. The Sargasso Sea actually gives attractiveness plus 50 and increased visit plus 10%. So that's kind of cool as well. I did not see that I got an achievement for getting all of these items, but I figured I would at least tell you guys how I got these, so that way it's easier for you guys as well. So the number one way for me to get all of our plants was to buy them. Madam Kahina's Harbor here, she has a bunch of plants for sale, and you can just keep buying them. They're usually not super expensive, and especially as the game goes on, you start gaining a bunch of money off your trades and off the airmail. You can really fill this up rather quickly just by purchasing this from her. You also buy plants from Isabel Sarmento. So again, same thing down here. You just keep purchasing plants. The other way would be the expeditions here too. So notice we have botanical expeditions, we have archaeological expeditions. Now, once you build a World's Fair, you also get access to the botany and horticulture. So you can select one of these and you can actually prepare them, and you can gain some more botanical garden items. Now again, the Botanical Garden items, they are the easiest items for me to get, and they're only one page. So this should be one of the quickest things you guys can do, at least in the beginning. And then you can spread it out over your islands to increase productivity and whatnot from there. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is the museum. So the museum's a little different. The museum has a couple pages, and these are not that easy to come by. So I was doing a lot of archaeological expeditions, and I kept getting kind of the same artifacts over and over and over. I mean, if we take a look down here, I mean, you can see I have multiples of a lot of different artifacts, and they were kind of a pain. Now, there are some ways to get more of these artifacts in a faster way. One of those ways is with our diving bell. So you get a bunch of missions, and you can purchase missions as well to dive for artifacts, and you will actually get quite a few good artifacts that way. You can purchase a lot of your diving missions from Old Nate as well. So Old Nate actually has a ton of diving missions that you can purchase, and it'll give you machines and artifacts, animals too, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But this is kind of how I was going. I was going into each region and trying my best to get as many artifacts as I can until I got stuck on a couple. So the artifacts, they give you income, they give you chance of fire, a decrease in chance of fire, they give you increased visits, productivities for different things, movement speeds, happiness, more productivity, hit points for ships, harbor activity, maintenance costs, minus 20%, damage to sailing ships, more maintenance costs, minus 20%, harbor activities, attractiveness and influence, reduced needs, research points per resident, thematic exhibitions, and increased chance of finding artifacts, diving bell rarity, which is kind of funny because I finished this up after I was done diving, so that kind of sucks. So if we take a look back at our World's Fair, we can see that we do have an archaeology and ethnography World Fair here, and we can actually select these. And one thing that I noticed is that when I was choosing these, upon completion here, it will actually give us a bunch of different options to choose from. And going by the names of the options that we can choose from, it'll actually give you different artifacts. Now, before I talk about how we got all the rest of our items that we needed that we couldn't get through the diving bell, that we couldn't get through the museum, and we couldn't get through the expeditions, let's talk about the zoo, because it's the exact same way that I did it for the zoo too. So here we have our zoo. We have all cultural exhibitions filled. And we can see that these things give things like workforce plus 10%, income as well, reduced needs, attractiveness, maintenance costs, attractiveness, harbor activity, attractiveness plus 10%, It also gives inspiration, so you can actually do some quests too, which is interesting. Productivity, workforce needed, productivity as well, maintenance costs, happiness, attractiveness as well, increased visits, increased chance of finding animals, diving bell rarity, productivity, reduced needs, number of modules for cattle farms and alpaca farms, minus 25%. Productivity plus 20%, extinguished speeds plus 30%, and attractiveness plus 5, and force density plus 10%. Now, animals were one of the tougher ones to get. You can buy animals the same way that we were buying our gardens. However, you can't really get a lot of good animals from buying them from the characters around the area. So you can actually dive for animals too. There are some quests that allow you to dive for animals. They're all going to be sea creatures though, because you're diving underwater. You do also get some expeditions. So the expeditions that you get, you can get the zoo expeditions. I don't have any on here right now, but the expeditions will actually give you some animals too. But one of the biggest drawbacks that we have is that the World's Fair actually will not give you any animals. So how did we finally get to 100% here? Our expeditions were taking forever, and we kept getting the same animals over and over. Same thing with our museum up here. We kept getting the same archaeological items. So that brings us to our research institute. So in Season 2, the Land of the Lions DLC actually gives us the research institute. So it brings scholars to the old world from all around the world, fulfill their cosmopolitan needs so that alongside your engineers, they may fuel scientific progress. So with this research institute, all you have to do is go to your fields of research, go to your cultural sciences, invest your research points, and you can actually identify all of the animals that you need. Same thing with the museum. You can identify all the artifacts that you need. Same thing with the plants too. You can just identify those as well. As you identify things, so let's identify some artifacts here. You can see that it takes some of your points. Then from there, you can go to the item development page, and you can actually select items here to develop. So, let's say that we wanted, an albino gorilla. We could just develop this item now because we have discovered it. And you can see it takes about 10 minutes. So that is how I've gotten the rest of my animals and the rest of my museum pieces. Now, I did hear that there were some other ways of getting your expeditions. So if you don't have the Land of the Lions DLC, the expeditions I heard, and I can't tell you that this works for me, is to just let all of your expeditions build up, and eventually it'll keep populating different places on the map. Like, let's say you need expeditions to Mbessa, so that way you can get, some of your African animals there. You just have to look for an expedition that actually takes place there. So that is one way that I heard does work, but again, for me, it was not working. It was just very, very slow. So the way I had to do it was just develop the items with the Research Institute in the fields of research. All right, guys and gals, well, I hope that helps. You guys get all of your museums and your zoos and your botanical gardens up to 100%. I didn't really see any good guides online, so I figured I would pop this one out there for you. All right, guys, until next time, take care, and I'll see y'all later.